Okay, so we are looking at one sample story, and the story has been written um, on the prompt, right? A story which includes the line, "Turning back was not any option." This is not one of the best samples, but it is not even one of the average samples. All right, so you can find that how the story has been unfolded gradually and what other narrative features have been included in the story. So look at the story in close and analyze what has helped the story to get fairly better marks. Okay, so what are the features that you can include in your stories as well? Okay, so narrative writing is all about grabbing the reader and how craftily you're using narrative features um, to get maximum marks. So we have two tables to refer to when examiners are checking it. Table one is about style, and table two is about the kind of language that is being used. Okay, so I'll be sharing those tables shortly as well. But let's look at the story, opening of the story. Okay. So the story opens with this paragraph. It says, the forest was alive with whispers, comma, the kind that seemed to crawl up your spine and settle in the back of your mind. The trees stood like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches twisting towards the sky as if pleading for release from some unseen burden. The air was thick with scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and every step I took seemed to sink deeper into the soft, yielding ground. My breath came in shallow gasps, the weight of unknown pressing down on me like a physical force. Turning back was not an option, not now, not after everything I had already sacrificed to get this far. Okay. So the story has opened up with a typical description of the settings. Where is the character? What is he doing? And what are the surroundings? Okay, so this is one technique that you can always open a story by describing the settings. So what is your character doing? In which situation is he? And what is he feeling? All right. So we can clearly see that um, in this story, the character is in the forest. Okay. And he seems quite resolute about continuing his journey. He seems quite um, determined to continue his journey. And he's telling that how this force of nature is working against him to continue his destination. And he opens the story with a line that forest was alive with whispers. And then he describes what kind of whispers, and those whispers are very painful, actually. He said the kind that seem to crawl up your spine and settle in the back of your mind. Okay. Fatima, can you please read the second paragraph, starting from here, the map?
The map in my hand was barely legible, its edges frayed and stained with what I was hoping was only mud. The path ahead was a labyrinth of shadows and half-formed shapes, the kind of place where reality seemed to blur at the edges. I could feel the eyes of the forest on me, watching, waiting. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent a jolt of adrenaline through my veins, but I pressed on, driven by a purpose that burned brighter than my fear.
Okay, thank you. Now, as the story progresses, it starts off with, with the determination of the writer, of the narrator rather. And the narrator voice becomes more firm, okay? And he is saying that, the map in my hand was barely legible. Legible means barely readable, all right? It edges frayed, edges of the frayed means they were worn out, okay? And it had stains, which he hoped that it was only mud. Okay. And the path ahead was a labyrinth of shadows and half formed shapes. Labyrinth means maze, complicated, right? So, the kind of place where reality seemed to blur at the edges. And again says, the reality is quite unclear. Okay. And now again, like in the opening paragraph, he talked about how Forrest is working against is working as an antagonist for his journey. All right. And he says, I could feel the eyes of the forest on me, waiting, watching, waiting. Watching, waiting is alliteration that he has used quite craftily. Every rustle of the leaf, every snap of twig. Now, every rustle of the leaves, every snap of the twig. This is a technique which is called repetition. All right. And every and every. Now, this intensifies the situation. And this writer has quite, creatively used the use of repetition every and every. Now, it is intensifying the situation, saying every rustle of the leaf, every snap of the twig sent a jolt of adrenaline through my veins. But I pressed on, driven by a purpose that burned brighter than my fear. All right. Now, there's a strong use of metaphor as well. He says, I was driven by a purpose and that burned brighter than my fear. All right. So that his purpose ignited him more than his fear. His purpose motivated him to keep on going against all the odds, against all the fear that he is facing. Okay. So now let's look at the next paragraph. He says, the story I had heard about this place were enough to make anyone hesitate. Tales of travelers who vanished without a trace, of voices that could called out in the dead of night, of a darkness that clung to the soul long after you had left. But I had no choice. Somewhere in the heart of this cursed woodland lay the answer I had been searching for, the key to undoing what had been done. The thought of it kept me moving, even as the shadows grew thicker and air colder. Okay, so again, there's a lot of intensity. Still, he's building the tension in reader's mind. What is he up to? What is he thinking? All right. And what is he struggling to achieve? Okay. So this tension is continuously being built by the writer. Okay. Now, we continue to the second last paragraph that he has written. He said, as I ventured deeper, the forest seemed to close in around me, the trees leaning closer as if to share their secret. My flashlight flickered, its beams growing weaker with each passing moment. I shook it, willing to hold on just a little longer. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of wood or the distant hoot of an owl. And then, just as I was beginning to wonder if I would made a terrible mistake, or if I had made a terrible mistake, I saw it, a faint glimmer of light in the distance. Okay, so my heart raced as I quickened my pace, the underbrush clawing at my legs. The light grew brighter, more defined, until I could make out the outline of a small clearing. In its center stood a stone altar, weathered and cracked, but unmistakably ancient. This was it. See the use of minor sentence I've been talking about? How crucial these minor sentences are in your story to build transition. This was it. The place I had been searching for. Turning back was not an option, not when I was so close. I stepped into the clearing, my resolve hardening with every step. Whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it. Okay, so we were looking at a sample narrative, and the story prompt was write a story which includes the line turning back was not any option. Okay, so this is of almost 468 words. Okay, so we can eliminate few words to fit into our 450 category. Okay, this much allowance is always given to the reader, to the writer. If even if you go few words beyond the maximum margin, so allowance is always given. However, I always recommend students to write a story for 400 words because the more you write, there are more mistakes. One thing, and the second thing is at times you lose control on the plot, that how to keep your characters in action. Okay, so now we'll talk about the positives of the story, and we'll also talk about the negatives of the story. What is good in the story? I usually call it what went well, WWW, and what needs to be improved? I usually call it EBI, even better if. So we'll look at the two aspects of the story: what is the good in the story, and what can could have been improved. Okay. So I would like you all to talk about what is good in the story. Okay. So I would suggest you all to read the story in one go on your own and then tell me in the chat window that what is good about the story. Any 3 or 4 points. Okay. And then you can also write about 2 or 3 points that the story could have been improved further. Okay. So please read the story on your own and do let me know when I have to scroll down so that you know I can facilitate in scrolling. Okay. I hope the task is clear. Please tell me in the chat window if the task is clear. Thank you very much for confirming that. Is that better? All right. Okay, I guess by now you must be ready with your points. Is that so? Meetup, are you ready? Okay, so all right, I'll read those. Almost, okay, almost. What about you, Fatima? Are you ready with your points?
Some left.
Okay, all right. So I'll start taking your points after in about 40 seconds. So I'm making this table here. All right, we will be writing points. Okay, so what went well and even better if, all right? So this just in case if we need it, right? So let's take a response from Fatima. So what went well in the story, Fatima?
There was a lot of good vocabulary and descriptive descriptions used.
Okay. So descriptive details, all right, and good use of vocabulary, all right. Okay, all right. What could have been improved? Yes, Fatima.
I'm not sure.
Anything that is missing, particularly. Okay, Mira, you can tell me what could have been improved. What do you think as a writer is lacking in it in this story?
I think that she's or he's like talking way too much. There's too much description sometimes, so it could become a bit boring.
Too much description, all right. Okay, leading to make the plot boring. Okay, what else?
I think it creates like the story created the suspense really, really well.
Okay, right. Creates suspense really well. All right. Okay, good. All right. Okay, I really like your point. Too much description leading to make the plot boring. Okay, and there's a lot of suspense till the end, right? And just in the last paragraph, we came to know that he was actually looking for a stone. Okay, and finally he actually found that stone. Okay, and that's the place I had been searching for. Turning back was not an option. This was a good connection, by the way. I've been telling you a lot. You should always build a connection between your opening paragraph and the closing paragraph. Okay, what I feel that a few dialogues are missing. Use of dialogues could have helped to um, navigate through the plot. All right. There was hardly any dialogue. Rather, there's not a single dialogue in the entire narrative. Whereas dialogue is a very strong narrative feature, by the way. Okay. There's a lot of description on his physical movement. Okay. The story has managed um, emotional engagement. There was a lot of emotional engagement, right? Uh, what else could have been improved? The ending theme seems to be, when we come towards ending, it seems to be slightly rushed and abrupt at the same time. Okay, ending is abrupt and rushed. It seems like, ending, my heart raced as I quickened my pace, and the brush clawing my legs. The light grew brighter, more defined until I could make out the outline of the small clearing. In its center stood a stone altar, weathered and cracked, but unmistakably ancient. This was it, the place I had been searching for. Turning back was an option, not when I was so close. So at no point, he has told us what he was. Um, I know he might have kept it as a suspense, but at no point he has told us that why is he in the forest and what he's doing out there. What do you think? This is also a something that as a writer he could have worked on this, Meera?
Yeah, but sir, sometime maybe the central point was just a stone.
All right. Oh, so he kept it secret deliberately.
Yeah, maybe he did.
All right. And how is this story engaging you as a reader? As a reader, do you find that you should keep on reading it? Is it engaging enough to you from one paragraph to enough? Second one, is it appealing you, forcing you to continue reading? How would you rate its engagement?
I think it's very well written.
Hmm.
Because I mean, in general, I really like thriller and mystery and stuff. So I think it didn't really bother to read more for me. It was very well done in the beginning as well.
In the beginning as well.
Yeah, the first sentence was really well done. And
Okay. All right. Well, now when it comes to our sentence structure, I would just comment on few things. I always tell my students that the variety of sentence starters are very essential. Now, I'm highlighting it for all of you. Now, I can see the first sentence is starting with the article the second is starting with the article the again, and the third one is starting with the article the again. All right. So, and when we are starting the same kind of sentence starters, then it becomes monotonous. All right. So you need to bring that change in your writing also. So the third, I could hardly see any variety of sentences here in the story. Either sentences are starting with the article the or they're starting with pronoun. Now, it is starting with possessive pronoun. My breath became in shallow gasps. And then again, we look at this one here. It's starting with the sentence starting with the article the here again. All right. And then again, the sentence starting with the article the. All right. This is the point where we need to bring variety here. Now, in the next sentence, if I look at it, starting with the pronoun I, it's okay. And now this is better. At least he's starting with demonstrative pronoun every Russell. I like this one. He's starting with the conjunction then. So the ones that I'm going to highlight, um, is it a purple color? All right. So yes. So it's better now. Every rustle of leaves, but I pressed on. This is good one. Okay, so once you change the sentence starters, that means a lot. Now again here, he's starting with the article the. Okay, and the tales of the travelers, fine, that was better. Okay, so most of the sentence starters are way too common, but over here, if you look at when he starts with the phrase, as I venture deeper, the meaning of the sentence changes a lot. All right. And then the pattern of the sentence is also something that we need to review. The pattern of sentence seems very monotonous. When he write one sentence, simple sentence, and he writes a complex one. Okay. So this needs to be looked again when writing a story. So this comes with the pacing of the story. How do you pace your narrative? Okay. So I like it. So did you see whenever you're starting a sentence with a different sentence starter or with a phrase, then it creates a different pacing. And then just I was beginning to wonder. Now this one has a different uh tone. This adds a different feature to narrative than we say. The silence was oppressive, broken only by occasional creak of wood or distant hoot of an owl. Okay. So that's what you need to keep in mind as well. So I'm just sharing the rubric on which you are being given marks in paper. And I'll share a rubric of 1, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll share a rubric for 0, 500. Okay, so let me open it for all of you. I'm going to share the entire screen so that it's easier for me to navigate through. So So this is table A, which is related to composition, content, and structure. All right. So this is where, right, the examiner checks your work. It says level 5, you get 9 to 10 marks. So if that is there, so you have to tell me, was this story on level 5 or level 4? Okay. So were there a wide range of narrative features used to create consistently effective response? Structure is clear, well balanced, and carefully organized for deliberate effect. I could clearly see the deliberate effect was there anyway. Okay. So level 4 says a range of descriptive narrative features used to create mostly effective response. The structure is more clear, balanced with well organized, and with some choices of more made for deliberate effect. So do you think this story is on level 4 or level 5? And Fatma, you can tell me. No weights on level 3, by the way. It's either on level 4 or level 5. Yes, Fatima?
I think it's a level 5.
Level 5, all right. Okay, now let's look at the second table that we have. Um, so it says